Hello and welcome to another lesson on functions, and in today's lesson we will talk about absolute value functions. Okay, so what is an absolute value? An absolute value is commonly referred to as the magnitude, and if you want to represent it, we use this symbol that is called the modulus. Okay, and what it basically does is that it changes any negative sign to a positive. Okay, so it change any negative number to a positive number. Okay, for example, if you have a number 7 and you take its modulus, it is already positive, so it will remain the same. But if you had negative 7 and you take its modulus, it will become positive 7. Okay, now if you talk about it in terms of number line, it would only give you the distance. Okay, if you talk about it in terms of number line, it will only give you the distance from this point 0. Okay, because if you take 4, then you have to take, if you have to move 4 units to the right. Okay, but if you take negative 4, obviously you have to move 4 units to the left, but their absolute value is only is always 4. Okay, because when you take it, the modulus, the value will be always positive. Okay, so in terms of number line, it only tells you about the magnitude of the number. Okay, so and you can take different examples. In this case, if you take negative 5, it will give you positive 5, right? If you take positive 5, it will remain positive 5. If you take 0, it will become it will remain 0. And if in case you have to solve something, you have to first simplify it and then take its modulus. 4 minus 7 is negative 3, and when you solve it and take the modulus, it becomes 3. Okay, so let's look at it graphically. And graphically speaking, it is represented by this V-shaped graph, and the function is y equals to x modulus, and it is called the parent function. Okay, so if to represent it, you can also use this representation. If you do not want to name your your function, then you use this f of x represented in terms of y instead of y. Okay, so if you talk about the piecewise function, which basically states that your function is x. Okay, if x is x modulus, if x is greater than 0, and negative x if x is less than 0. Okay, you can also say this on the graph, that if you are at the origin and you move to the right, okay, then you have positive value of x. Okay, so when x, the value of x is greater than 0, you will have positive x. Okay, but when you go on the left hand side, when x is less than 0, you will have negative values of x. Okay, and when x is greater than 0, you will have positive x. Okay, but the value of your function y is always positive. Okay, and that you can see as well on the graph, that whatever the values of x you take, positive or negative, the value of y is always positive for this absolute value function graph. Okay, so let's take this function and find its different characteristics, like domain, range, y-intercept, and x-intercept. In order to sketch this graph, you can just take the function and take different values. Like if you can take x equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, negative 1, negative 2, and negative 3, and then just solve for this y equals to absolute x. You will get 0, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Because of this modulus, your negative values would become positive, and then you can easily plot these points and then just join them to sketch this graph. Okay, so if we talk about the domain are just the input values, right? If we talk about the input values, this function can take any value, right? There is no point, there is no number that can make this function undefined. So its domain is all the real numbers. Okay, what about the range of the function? The range are the output value it produces, right? So if we talk about the range, you see that it always produces positive value. It cannot produce a negative value. So the range is all the real numbers, but their value is always positive. Okay, that is why they say y is always greater than or equal to 0. So what is the y-intercept? For y-intercept, you have to put x is equals to 0, and your function is y equals to x modulus. And when you plug in x is equals to 0 here, you will get y equals to 0 as well. So the y-intercept is 0, 0, and for x-intercept or zeros, you have to plug in y equals to 0, and when you do that in this function, you will get 0 0 as well. So the x-intercept is 0 0 and y-intercept is 0 0. So that's it for absolute value function, and thank you for joining.